And I decided to commit. So I took my test, failed it again. And this was like my fourth try. And at the time, again, I'm broke. I'm serving tables. And this was later in December.
Are you just a terrible test taker? Because is this like a really hard test? I have no idea.
The first two, I'm like, didn't really study. The last two, I actually really, really studied. And just like completely locked myself in the room and just failed it. I don't know. Like, I guess not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So. And also, like, if you fail it 4 times, because we're here in Arizona.
Man,
if you fail it 4 times, isn't it true that you have to, like, you don't get 4 tries in Arizona. Yeah. You got to go to a different state, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. So I had to go book it in another state, right, and be a resident there and have a place there. So I book it, and that week when I book it, I get a call. I'm waiting tables, and I have to go to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. And I got to go in the hospital. Found out the doctor sat me in a dark room, and he's like, hey, your brother, Sean, he was in a terrible accident. We don't think he's going to make it. Long story short, lost my brother that week. Was really, really tough. And I had to stay committed to what I said I was going to do. And I had 2 choices. I was, okay, I'm going to use this as fuel to be like, I'm going to dedicate my life this next year to my brother's life. Or I can say, woe is me, and feel and kind of like feed into the depression that was upon me, right?
Yeah.
And I decided to make and dedicate my first year to my brother's life. So I went to his funeral. Then I decided to take my trip to New Mexico, and that was that next week. I remember I had to borrow money from my mom for rent, and my rent was $450 at the time. That's how broke I was. I couldn't afford a hotel room. All my credit cards maxed out. Just crazy, depressed place in life. But I knew that it was eventually going to be a great story and had to keep fighting. That's all I knew, is like I had nothing else going. Like, this had to be it. And I feel, right before your biggest breakthroughs, you have a lot of adversity, man. And I was just up for the challenge. I was like, what? I just got to fight for this thing. So I take the money. My mom gives me the $450. I look at her and I say, I'm never going to have to ask for money again. I promise. And I looked at her and I held true to my word on that. I went to New Mexico that night. When I'm staying there, the person that I'm staying with was someone I didn't really even know. And these guys were not really doing the greatest stuff. They ended up getting robbed that night. I was held at gunpoint the night before my test. I remember like it was yesterday. Held at gunpoint, this clown put a gun to my head. Like literally this guy in a clown mask, he was probably like 6'3". He's like, if you move, you're dead. And I'm thinking to myself, if I die tonight, like my mom is going to I don't know what's going to happen to her. So I'm literally just like praying and like just hoping that it goes away. And I was in touch, thank God. And people around me, they obviously were. And I got up, actually didn't even get up. I went from that place, no sleep, an hour away to take my test, and ended up passing. That's how I started for an all commission based sales job, man. Talk about like just being committed, because I knew that I had to do this. I knew I needed to change, and I knew that wasn't going to be easy, and I accepted that challenge.
Wow. 2 things I think that are just really stand out about you, and just I think in just general anybody that is an entrepreneur. Number 1, you keep talking about being committed, and it's like you had hit so many walls, and I always say the same thing too. Like even in my own life, I'm thinking, man, I must be on the other side of this. I'm like 1 hit away from a breakthrough. I don't know where it's gonna be at, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
But I always tell my clients and anybody, even myself, my own self-talk is like, you're just 1 hit away from a breakthrough. Just keep going.
Yeah.
The other thing is I find fascinating, and the most successful entrepreneurs that I've ever met, they are decisive and they're action takers.
Yeah.
And I feel like you said, you were committed. Like, I'm taking action and I'm doing this no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, what separates you from probably, everybody.
Yeah.
the majority, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I think you would say the same thing. I've heard this a lot. One of my mentors said, like, to be an entrepreneur, Joel, you have to be kind of crazy in the head.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
He's very wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually curious though, what was the conversation you were having in your head at the time when you failed? You said 4 times, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I get being committed and persevering. I love that about you. But wouldn't somebody say like, bro, it's life insurance. Like there's so many other careers out there. Like
Yeah.
what was the conversation in your head that you said, no, like this is something I really need to do do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, I just saw someone that was like my age that was making money in it. And I just believed that I could do the same thing that they were doing. And again, I had nothing else. I didn't know what else to do. And I saw people getting into real estate and stuff like that, but I saw that it was starting to get saturated, and it was like, I needed to do something different. I've always been taught to like go to the road that's less traveled, right? There's more opportunity there. So I was just like, man, this is going to happen for me. I'm a firm believer that it's not what happens, it's how you respond.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was going to be a crazy story one day. And I knew that, again, like, you're going to go through pressure. That's how diamonds are formed. And I knew that I just needed to endure, just like a workout like you do, right? It's like that extra rep, that one more. Like when you want to quit, you got to keep going. So that I'm just telling myself that it's going to be worth it in the end. And I'm just going to make it happen. I'm going to find a way to freaking win at this.